kind of work.
Hey, you might as well put on your blizzard suit or wrap up in a blanket. Get ready. You're fixing to see the coldest Bassmaster tournament in history. It's not supposed to be winter weather in November on Oklahoma's Grand Lake of the Cherokees, but today it is. The weigh-in scales even freeze. You'll have to see it to believe it, and you will when the Bassmasters return. Stay tuned. I'm Bob Cobb. We'll be right back with the Oklahoma Invitational, where the winter wind blows cold.
For the 319 anglers entered in the $188,000 Bassmaster Oklahoma Invitational on Grand Lake, the weather is the main topic of conversation. The past 3 practice days were laced with sleet, snow, rain, and freezing temperatures. Today's not that bad so far, but the forecast is for cold and colder weather. Oklahoma's Grand Lake of the Cherokees is 51 years old, but is considered one of the state's best fisheries. With 59,200 surface acres and 1,300 miles of shoreline, it fishes big. When Grand is high, usually in the spring, flooded willow trees offer the best fishing. But now with the lake 5 feet low, man-made brush piles around docks and steep drop-offs are the key. The Grand Old Lady, as she's called, is a year-round residence for many. For others, a weekend getaway place. Grand also sports a world-class resort and conference center, Shangri-La. But it's not golf or tennis or water sports these Bassmasters are here for. It's bass fishing. Florida's Jim Finley is quick to connect this first morning of competition. Earlier, he confided, despite the conditions, he'd been catching lots of fish during practice. Each angler may weigh in 6 bass daily. The minimum length is 14 inches. Kentucky's Tim McDonald is also catching bass this morning. Most of these fishermen are casting jigs with a pork trailer or fishing plastic worms. Water temperature is in the low 50s, falling into the 40s upriver. Grand Lake has a good population of both largemouth and spotted bass. It also has a lot of these fish that bite like bass, as Oklahoma's Tommy Biffle learns. They're called drum, and they don't count in this tournament. Tim McDonald's pattern is still paying off. Pre-tournament predictions were that it would take 35 to 40 pounds to win the $35,000 first place purse. But that was before the weather turned to the worst. North Carolina's Guy Aker has hold of a good bass, but they're also biting in the back of the boat for Texan Jim Brower. Doubles like this are not uncommon around boat docks on Grand. In fact, some local anglers fish the man-made cover around the docks exclusively year-round. Weigh-in time, and the size of the catches is going to open some eyes. It looks like Arkansas's Ron Sheffield is the angler of the hour, the one to beat.
What's the scale? 21 pounds, 10 ounces, there's your new leader. 21.11. All right, hold up a couple of these right here. I tell you, folks, this is something else. I tell you, the big bass are turned on. I'm telling you, this feeding up this real cold winter. That's just 2 on. Let me hold one on. Let me get one in my hand. I want to get one on. So I get in this act.
Day 2. And button up your overcoat, folks, because the wind chill right now is 17 degrees below 0. That's when these anglers are standing still. Now calculate how cold it will be at 60 miles per hour in an open bass boat. But these Bassmasters probably won't be traveling that fast this morning. There's fog and rough water and the bitter cold. Even though this Bassmaster Oklahoma Invitational is shaping up more as a survival test than a bass tourney, Arizona's Ted Miller proves the bass will still bite, and they're full of fight. What fishing problems do the cold temperatures create? Let the leader, Ron Sheffield, explain.
Hey, it's altering the way I'm having to fish. I'm having to fish this stuff a lot slower than I did yesterday because of the wind and because of the ice. You just don't have any feel with your reel. Like your level wind continually ices over. This one here is solid. You every now and then stop and blow it out so that your line will flow through it free enough to make your cast and presentation better.
But here's an angler who's got the cold weather problems figured out. Lonnie Stanton.
I'm trying to use two rods. Leave one by the little heater. They get so much ice down inside the ice and stuff, it won't cast. This is about thawed out now, though. Just sit here. I mean, look at this. Jig pro solid. Look at that. All these are pro solid.
Back to Ron Sheffield. How's he catching his bass?
Basically been doing is I've been working these docks down these banks. These docks has got the brush around them. I'm working them from the bank side in and out and around. And if the water in behind these docks is as deep as 10 to 12 feet, I'll spend most of my time fishing strictly behind them. But on these flatter docks, it seemed like the last day of practice, I got on some fish on these flatter docks out on the front edges and the outside corners of them. They also were around some kind of structure, brush or whatever. And that's basically what I've been doing the last couple of days is just working in and out around these brush piles. But this cold weather has got these fish, I think, in a pretty much a dormant mood. They're just not biting real aggressive. In practice, they hit the jig pretty good, but now they're not biting the jig very good. I'm fishing a half-ounce Stanley jig, black and blue, with a black and blue 11A Uncle Josh port. And every fish I've caught has been on that pattern. So we're going to keep throwing.
Even though the weather's vicious, it's not hampering the bass catching action. As Oklahoma's Chuck Devereaux finds out, the conditions for fishing are horrible, but for the bass, not bad. That's because the water temperature hasn't dropped to the point that would take them off their fall feed bag. But there's no doubt the weather change is affecting the bass in some way. Again, Ron Sheffield.
I think that these bigger fish are the ones that's, they're the ones that's probably been most affected by this. We've still caught, a few smaller fish up in here around this cover like this, but these bigger fish seem to have kind of just pulled out off the bank and are holding on the outside edges of some of this good cover. And a lot of them aren't really on the bottom. They're kind of suspended up in the tops of this brush. And so I'm not really working my jig a whole lot on the bottom. I'm spending a lot of time just kind of swimming it through the brush tops. I think that, if the weather would warm up, these fish would probably get a little more aggressive and move back in on some of this shallower brush where I first started catching them in practice. But the last couple of days, like I said, they just haven't seemed to be many fish out there on it.
When we return, we'll let the scales tell us just how much the weather's affected the fish. The Bassmasters will be right back from Grove, Oklahoma and the Grand Lake of the Cherokees. Stay tuned. Day 2 weigh-in time, and there are more surprises coming.
30th place, he had 6.95. Yesterday, he brings me 6 bass, a full live limit today, and I want you to watch the weight, folks. 20 pounds, 8 ounces for Danny Pryor. Yeah!
And now this morning's leader, Ron Sheffield.
Ron is leading this tournament yesterday with 21 pounds and a little bit. Folks, he has 2 bass today, total weight 8 pounds and 6 ounces. Now I want to ask you, Ron, you got 2 spectacular bass. Hold these bass up. Let's show these bass off. These are the two bass, folks, he caught. He's fishing a pattern that's working on bigger fish. And Sheffield has continued to hold the lead. This is going to bring him right back into the lead by 4 ounces, no less. And I got here. It's frozen if you can use any part of it you want.
I'm frozen too, right? So it don't matter.
How far, Ron, did you run today, roughly, time-wise?
I'm not running about 10 minutes away. It's as far away as I'm going to fish. The wind and cold weather, coupled with the fact that your line freezing your guides and everything all day, kind of bothered me quite a bit today during my fishing. But I had 4 bites all day, and the other 2 I broke both of them off, and they were that size or maybe a little bit bigger. And so I had the chances today to been back up there pretty good. But you know, there's one more day left, and if the wind would get down, I think I can catch these fish. But when I'm fishing, the wind's pretty crucial to me.
How cold was it out on the pond? Gary Klein knows.
My trolling motor froze shut. I couldn't leave. I had to stay and fish this one area for about 2 hours. It was literally frozen down in the lock position.
4 pounds in one.
That's pretty cold.
It was so cold that
Ask Jay
waves
Yellis.
come over the bow of the boat when we were fishing. You know, we were fishing into the wind. There's about 3 foot waves.
Bingo.
The whole deck of the boat turned to ice.
We got to put this fish on there.
It was like we needed ice skates instead of shoes to fish.
Seeing enough of them, maybe they'll cancel the tournament. So that's my.
Denny Brower is dressed for the weather, but maybe he stayed out too long.
My tree suit, well, the whole deal there is I'm fishing water so clear that I'm really worried about the fish looking up. Every now and then they poke their head up to see what the weather's about to do. And with this tree suit, they can't see me near as well. They just think I'm a tree, so it's been helping.
On the serious side, there are dangers on the water, as Gary Klein explains.
The one thing that really scares me with weather like this is if you go into the water, then you just have a few minutes. You really got to get taken care of. Normally when weather's this bad, and if I'm really making a major run, I'll carry a complete change of clothes and a space blanket in the boat, just in case.
And if you want it straight from someone who went swimming, listen to California's Mike Folkestad.
I hope he didn't freeze to death.
Did he stay with you all day?
He stayed and fished all day.
Oh, no, did he take the underwear off he had on when he hit the water?
Yeah, he did.
Mike, what were you doing to fall in?
Well, Tommy went back in the back of the boat to the motor was going to hit a piece of angle iron, and so I took the troll motor and put it in reverse, and I was backing out, and I hit a gangplank or something. I don't know what the hell I hit, but I went in.
But are you going feet first, or head first, or sideways?
Hey, I did a belly flop.
Listen, what was your first? What was the first impression when you hit the water?
First thing I did is I started swimming as hard as I could for the bank because I didn't know what was happening.
Well, you went on to the shore?
I swam all the way to shore. I asked Tommy if I was going to get protested for leaving the boat, but he said no. And it was we were by a restaurant, and I had it on dress in front of this restaurant. And these women were up there. We could see them looking out of the window, peeping, but they couldn't see nothing. I was like a turtle.
Day 3 of the Bassmaster Oklahoma Invitational. And if you think yesterday was cold, check the mercury today, 8 degrees. This weigh-in tank will take some thawing. It's also taking more time to get the contestants on the water today. This ramp froze solid after the second boat was launched. So now they're launching off the bank with the help of a winch. More problems. Frozen boat steering cables. Frozen everything. But the bass are still biting for Denny Brower. It appears his tree trunk camouflage is paying off this last morning. Ron Sheffield returns to his upriver area. He's had it pretty much to himself because many fishermen feel the water in the Elk River is too cold. Ron has proved it isn't, if you can make the right lure presentation. He's won 3 top 100 Pro-Am tournaments. This could be his first Bassmaster Invitational win, but he needs a big bite. Because Jay Yellis, only 1 ounce behind at the start of this morning, is catching bass. Let's ask Jay to explain his pattern.
What I'm fishing is a deep structure pattern. As cold as it's been, these fish are starting to relate to the walls quite a bit, and the vertical drops. And the best spots seem to be where flats meet these vertical drops. And all the fish are just, you know, it doesn't look like there's a wall here, but this bank comes out, tapers to about 15 feet, and then it goes straight into 80 feet. The fish are right, you know, they just migrate up on top of that little ledge to feed, and that's where I'm catching them.
Let's take a quick break and warm up. The Bassmasters will be right back from Oklahoma's Grand Lake. Stay tuned. Here's the coffee. For Denny Brower, the bass are still biting, but today most of them are small and short of the 14-inch limit. Denny needs some heavyweights to match the quality fish Ron Sheffield is catching. And what about the leader? How's he doing?
I've caught 8 fish today. I've had 3 short fish. I've got 5 keepers, and I've had 9 bites. The only other fish that I've had hooked was about a 3.5, 4-pound fish, and I broke her off. I think the ice or the brittle line is probably the reason I broke that fish off, but that's 3 of them that size I've lost up here the last couple of days, so I'm sure it's going to play a role in whether or not I can win this tournament, because I'd feel pretty comfortable if I had either one of the 3 I've lost the last 2 days.
Missouri angler.
Weigh-in time. Did Ron Sheffield hold on to his lead?
Here comes our leader in the tournament, Ron Sheffield, with 30 pounds and 1 ounce to his credit. He has another solid limited bass. The question is, what'll they weigh and who's going to catch him? I'll tell you one thing, this is when you pray for a big fish. You know, 6 bass in this crowd here sometimes won't do it.
Well, it was awful tough again today, but the fish bit better for me. I caught a good many more fish today, yes, including short fish, but I just hope I got enough, Ray. I went out and I felt like I needed to catch 13 to 14 pounds to really have a chance to do it, so throw them on there and let's see if it's enough.
All right, here we go, folks. Watch the scale very closely. 18, 19 pounds even. There's your winner right there, I believe. But we'll ask him real quick, and we'll talk more about this later. We've got to ask you the question. We didn't ask you a lot of questions, but tell us, if you would, now that it's over, what lure were you using, and what technique, and where were you fishing, the depth, and so forth?
I spent the entire tournament in the Elk River. I caught every one of these fish out of 46, 47-degree water that most fishermen, I think, had overlooked because it was awful cold. And I'd work my lure extremely slow. I'd start at the bank, and I'd work in beside and behind every boat dock that had brush. Even if there wasn't any visible brush, I'd still fish just as tight, skip the jig along up and under the cables, and I fished real well tournament. I only lost 3 fish, and all of them were good fish, but that's the quality fish that were up there biting. And I used a 1/2-ounce black blue Stanley jig with number 11 black blue pork the whole tournament.
Good enough for me. Thank you so much. Congratulations, folks. Let's give him a good hand. We'll bring him up in just a minute. You might as well. I would recommend you
The
not
winner
leave.
of this tournament earns $14,000 cash and a fully rigged Ranger bass boat. Denny Brower doesn't have enough. Neither does Jay Ellis. Lonnie Stanley charges into second place with 18 pounds, 3 ounces today. But the champion of the Bassmaster Oklahoma Invitational is Ron Sheffield, the wire-to-wire leader.
This is a lot. You won a lot of tournaments, and I tell you seem to do better when the pressure's on.
Well, you know, it's rare that a leader leads this thing and wins one wire to wire, and I thought after yesterday, even though I had lost a couple quality fish, that I was going to watch my hope for winning another one go down the drain. But, you know, I was lucky today. I caught my fish. I fished real well in this tournament, and I'm just thankful. I thank the good Lord that I did as well as I did today, and there'll be another day. There's some tremendous fishermen out here, and anytime you win one of these against these caliber of fishermen, you've done quite a feat, I think.
Right now, it's time for the Pros Pointer, the how-to section of the Bassmasters. Brought to you by Wrangler, the most comfortable jeans known to man.
How I would approach these docks, I would approach them from this angle right here. And I'd try and fish to the outside edges of the cover first. I used kind of a skipping technique, and the pitching technique were the 2 techniques I'd use. To skip, you just hold your rod at a lower trajectory and try and bounce the lure off the water. And I'd do that to put the lure to the outside edges of the cover before I would actually go on in and penetrate, such as this right here. Then I just let the lure slowly settle all the way to the bottom, and I would use real subtle rod movements. I just kind of work the lure over each individual piece of cover real slowly to get the strikes. And of course, the strikes would really be nothing more than just a real subtle line movement one way or the other. And I'd continually work my jig until I come over the last piece of cover. Then I'd reel in, make my retrieve pretty fast, and I'd try and make me another skip. I'd always go to the bank with my first skip, and I'd go to the dock with my second one.
A super win for a super angler, Ron Sheffield. But he told us right after the final weigh-in that he thought it was more of an endurance test than a bass tournament. Next week, we'll be back in Oklahoma at the Gee Creek Lake with four-time world champion Rick Clunn. You'll learn firsthand how Rick puts together a pattern for the time of year, lake conditions, and lure selection on a lake he's never seen before. We'll all go to school next week. For the Bassmasters, I'm Bob Cobb. See you right here next Sunday.
The Bassmasters has been brought to you by Ranger Boats. We still build them one at a time. DuPont Strand Fishing Lines. Evinrude Outboards. Evinrude owners are born, not made. Berkeley Power Baits. Fortified with flavor and scent enhancers so powerful, fish just won't let go. Chevy Trucks. More people are winning with the heartbeat of America. Today's truck is Chevrolet. Valio, the lightweight, revolutionary new back support belts. All the support you'll ever need. Rubbermaid Specialty Products Division. Don't you wish everything was made like Rubbermaid? Bass Pro Shops, world's largest supplier of premium tackle. BP, a leading producer of oil and gas for America's energy needs. Wrangler, the official jeans and shirts of the BASS Tournament Trail. And the Bass Angler Sportsman Society, the world's largest bass fishing organization.